So sometimes it's fun to do dumb stuff, and today I'm going to make some dumb ice. You might remember a while back I made a giant ice diamond. That was pretty fun, also totally absurd. Since that time I found this glass bear at the thrift store. I thought that might make a fun ice. It's still a little big. You remember the diamond was huge, and this is still a little bit too tall maybe. I glued it onto this base. This is the cap to my tequila bottle. I thought the ice would work better if it had a base. That caused a couple of problems, which we'll get to later. So I got some food-safe silicone for this, so I won't have to worry about that anymore. Okay, so I'm going to use my beer koozie and water bottle method. I'll link to that in the description and up here if you're not familiar with that. I'm going to make this mold in a water bottle so that it'll fit in there, and then I can insulate it with the koozie, and that should give us a clear ice bear. So I just hot glued my bear onto my tequila cap base. That was easy enough. Sort of fits right into the water bottle. The silicone is a two-part product. You measure out equal parts and then give it a thorough stir. And then you're going to pour the silicone into the mold. Try to make sure the bear doesn't move around. That was a little bit tricky. Now, the thing that happened was the silicone was blocked from going all the way to the bottom, as you can see here. But then as it dried, it does eventually seep down into the bottom. So you can see this is the next day. It's all cured, but the level on the top has gone down, and my ears of my bear are a little bit exposed. This is part of what causes the problem. Now, you gotta cut the water bottle off to get it off of the mold. So I'm gonna sacrifice a water bottle for this. And one of the things I learned from watching mold making YouTube videos is you make a zigzaggy cut when you're trying to get your mold apart, and that is so that when you put it back together it is already registered and it won't slip back and forth. It sort of goes back together how it's supposed to. So you just gotta sort of wrestle this thing out. It comes out pretty clean, and now I've got this silicone mold. You see how it's, a cavity in there where the silicone isn't. And the part where the base was is very thin, so it's not super great. Now, next step is, of course, to make your ice. I put it into my koozie. I use this plastic bag just to make it easier to get out later. Shove your water bottle in. And I put in like a little divider. This is what was left of the bottle from earlier, just to keep the mold up higher in the water bottle, because the cloudy ice goes to the bottom, but you want the stuff you want to keep clear, it needs to be high up enough, far away from the cloudiness. So next step is just to put it on into the freezer and leave it overnight. So the next day, here we are, pull it out. What you want to do is definitely let it sit for about 10 minutes. This is known as tempering. Basically, you want to let the ice warm up a little bit, because if you try to run some water over it while it's super cold, the ice will crack, and you don't want that. So this is about 10 minutes later. Run a little water over it to melt the edges of the ice inside the bottle, and then you should be able to just squeeze the bottom kinda and get this to slide on out like so. And then the ice around the mold at the top is pretty thin, easy to just crack that right off. Then we can take our rubber bands off and extract our ice and see how we did. These just pull right apart, and you should be able to just take your ice bear out of the mold. There it is. So you'll see the top of the ear got a little, it's not great. And also there's a bit of cloudiness up here in the sort of chest of the bear. I'm gonna try and improve this. I'm gonna put it in some water, see how it floats, and see what kind of changes we can make. Yeah, so you'll see this guy sort of doesn't stand up straight. What you would want, I think, is for this to be a little more stable up and down. On the other hand, this may never work perfectly, so I'm gonna try this again. I'm gonna try and get a clearer ice bear. I mean, this isn't terrible. It's still an ice bear in a glass. Anyway, ridiculous. So what I did was I got a new water bottle and I cut it to be quite a bit taller than the original bottle. Then I got a second smaller diameter bottle and cut it to the right height to keep the mold up higher up in the first bottle. This means keeps the clear ice at the top, the cloudy ice at the bottom. The stuff in the mold will be clear. The stuff outside below the mold will be cloudy. I also insulated the top part of this setup with some packing styrofoam to keep the directional freezing in place, keep the water in the top freezing in one direction. My mold is at the top of my insulated thingamajig. We're going to fill this up with water and we'll see what happens tomorrow. So now we just repeat the same procedure, let it temper for about 10 minutes, run a little water over it to loosen it up, slide it out of the plastic bottle, chip off the thin layer of ice on the outside, take off our rubber bands, and the cloudy ice, you see, just breaks right off. That's the advantage of doing this upside down. And here we go. Not bad. The ear didn't come out perfect, and there's a few little bubbles, but you know, pretty cool. I realized the easiest way to get the ice bear to stand up in the glass was just to put it in a glass in the freezer and freeze it to the glass. For a drink, I thought I would use Bärenjäger because it has, you know, a bear theme. It's not great stuff, but I'm trying to get rid of it. I thought about a brown derby, which is bourbon, grapefruit juice, and honey. Instead of grapefruit juice, I'm going to use Bergemot cordial that I made recently, and instead of honey, Bärenjäger. So it'll be bourbon, Bergemot cordial, and Bärenjäger. Then, as a final touch, I decided I would use my channel knife to make a long lemon twist. Then I could give the bear a little yellow scarf. So there it is, the Wocka Wocka, my tribute to Fozzie Bear. It's actually pretty good. That Bärenjäger is very strongly honey flavored. But it's sweet and tart and bourbony. Yeah, why not? And you gotta love the little scarf. Hey, thanks for joining me on my absurd ice journey. I'm gonna keep trying to figure out the perfect thing to make an ice mold out of. But until then, thanks for watching.
Ice bear, you're a nice bear. Is it nice bear? Where's the ice bear?